Wow, I need to brush my hair. Oh, and my shirt is on inside out. One moment, please. Okay, I've been on this journey because just out of the blue, nowhere, like a year and a half ago, my hair started hating every single shampoo and conditioner I used ever. And I had this shampoo and conditioner. I'll try to put up a picture. I think it was from TGI that I loved, but for circumstances that are a little bit tricky because of a terrible relationship that I was in, the smell of it reminds me of that and I can't do it. Kind of like I can't do gray anymore. It's gonna sound really weird, okay? But the person that I was in a relationship with, I loved everything white. Like I wanted white bedding and furniture and stuff like that. I normally love black, but I wanted white. They wanted black, so somehow our compromise was just gray, like in between, instead of just like, you know, finding something else that worked. So everything was like dark gray. So now I can't have like anything that is dark gray. So kind of like that. I can't use that shampoo and conditioner. So here's the thing. So then I went on a journey. There was another shampoo and conditioner I used to like by Nexus. Literally no one asked for this information, but I'm giving it to you. You are welcome. Mainly I'm giving it to you because I'm saying someone please help. Because now that doesn't work for me. And when I tell you, I have probably spent at least $500, if not literally thousands of dollars, trying to find a shampoo and conditioner that doesn't make my hair feel like shit. I'm not exaggerating. I've tried everything from high-end shit to drugstore to Sally, anything in between. The closest I've come to finding it is like this L'Oreal Everpure, but just this specific one from this line. And when I tell you, they're almost like always sold out of it, and then it's like an insane amount. And when I tell you I have so much hair, my hair is so thick. So trying to buy little bottles of shampoo and having to buy it for like $16 a little bottle that will literally last me like 5 washes. Hello, thanks for joining me. If anyone has any recommendations, if you've ever been through the same thing, if you know, let me know. Not that you know my hair at all, but that is why my hair is up. I literally just washed it yesterday, yet it looks dirty. No one wants to see your butt. Oh, my camera's about to die. So here is the thing. This last week and a half hasn't been my week and a half. One time in 8th grade, my boyfriend cheated on me. My mom came to pick me up from school and she said, oh, honey, some days are diamonds and some are stones. And I said, yeah, and some are fucking boulders. So now we refer to certain days as fucking boulder days. It's been a fucking boulder week. So I am in the mood to just mood read. Dory, I'm trying to avoid your tail, but it's a little tricky. Okay, let me change my battery. I'll be back. So I just want to read joyfully. Read things that bring me joy, not have much of a plan, let myself just read the way that my brain wants to read. Yesterday I went to Barnes & Noble, just shopped around, looked around. I used to spend like hours sitting in the aisles of Barnes & Noble back when I was like 13, 14, just like looking at covers, getting stacks of books, reading the synopses, reading the first chapters of them to figure out like the one book I was gonna take home. So I wanted to kind of recreate that magic and just go like browse around. So I did that yesterday, then it started to pour rain, so I had to come back home. Last night, my power was out. I woke up at 3 a.m. because my power went out at 3 a.m. so my noisemaker, my sound machine went off, and it's like something clicks in me when that happens. And I instantly was like, oh no. So I was up. It's a gloomy day outside. So I'm like, today is a drink tea and read kind of day. I picked up this book from Barnes & Noble that for some reason I cannot remember the name of right now. I can picture the cover perfectly. Here's my plan. Might read that book that I picked up from Barnes & Noble. Might read Bunny by Mona Awad because this is like also one of my most anticipated books that I wanted to read this year. The other one is an anticipated 2023 release. Dory. But there's no pressure. We're just gonna go with whatever my heart and soul is feeling. I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's... I am about like 50 pages into Bunny. The only way I've ever really heard this book described is a book about a woman who's in like an MFA program, and there are these other women who are in the sorority type clique that all call each other Bunny. That's pretty on point. It starts off saying, we call them bunnies because that is what they call each other. Seriously, Bunny. Example, hi Bunny. Hi Bunny. What did you do last night, Bunny? I hung out with you, Bunny. Remember, Bunny? That's right, Bunny. You hung out with me and it was the best time I ever had. Bunny, I love you. I love you, Bunny. And it's horror. That's all we know. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that this is not just a sorority of girls who call each other Bunny. And it's all, like, you're already feeling, like, uncomfy. The way that people are talking, or there are some lines in here that you're just like, what the fuck? And I'm highlighting all of them. I love it. I feel like this is gonna be one of those horror books that the less you know going into it, the better. And that you're really not gonna have any idea what is really going on until it's like over. And that most of it is just going to be this ominous, feels weird and uncomfortable and unsettling, and then all unravels. That's what I'm feeling and hoping for. I've tried not to hype this up too much in my mind, but it's really hard not to when I've heard such amazing things about it from people who typically share my like same kind of love of weirder kind of horror. The main girl that we're following from her perspective is Samantha, and she just got invited to come to the Smut Salon, which is their like club thing, cliquey, mysterious event. So we shall see what happens from there. I've got a feeling that past that, I'm not going to be able to talk to you about the plot, but I will be able to talk to you about the vibes and what I'm feeling. But so far, I am intrigued and ready to keep going. What the fuck did I just read? This is so good. Long it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away. Things escalated right about after I was done updating you that first time. That next chapter, I was like, okay, and then it just kept spiraling. I am loving this so much. I understand why a lot of people don't like this, because if you're into like more traditional horror or like hauntings or slasher type things, this is not that. Kayla's review on Goodreads just says, ha ha ha, what the fuck? And I feel that deep in my soul, because that's pretty much all I've been saying this whole time is like, oh my god, what the fuck? And that is exactly what I am looking for from horror. I'm so excited about this. I hope that this second half is just as big of a win as this first half is. I want to just keep reading this, but I have the audiobook and I love, like the audiobook is so good, but I also want to be reading along physically because I feel like there are just like the way that she writes is so intelligent in a really fucked up, unsettling way that there are so many things that I feel like I would miss if I was listening just to the audiobook and like doing other things that add to that ominous, what is happening here kind of feeling. So I've been like annotating and highlighting as I go along. So I want to keep doing that, but I'm starving. So I think I'm gonna take a little bit of a break, make some food, eat, then either come back to this or start another book, but eventually come back to this. That was exactly what I needed right now. Everything that I was hoping for and so much more. I was getting a little bit nervous there. The pacing of this book is odd because like after the 50-page mark, when I was like, oh, we'll see, I have a feeling that like it's not gonna get like absolutely out of control and unhinged until the end, and then it really went there, and then it slows down for a little bit, and I was like, oh no. Did it like peak? And now we're just kind of going back down. I was getting a little bit worried. Had you asked me like 60 pages from the end what I would have rated it, it would have been like down to a 4, which like still is an amazing book, right? But like I was loving it so much that I was like, oh no. And then it goes there. It like goes back up. And not, oh my god, not at all what I was expecting in the best way possible. I can't describe anything else to you other than what I have said, and I still have not thought of a book that I can compare this to, because I understand why this like horror in general I think gets lower ratings because horror is such a broad term in the sense of like you can love one type of horror and absolutely despise the other kind of horror, and obviously like there's lots of different types and there's lots of different like levels of, is it unsettling, is it scary, or is it gory, like so many types of things. And this is just like, this book is so intelligent and the conversations that it's having are so good. So it's not just like this unhinged weird horror story that like shocking for shock value's sake, because I don't tend to like those. I think a lot of like the reviews I'm seeing so far that hate this book are because the characters are so unlikable, which is true. Like almost everyone is so fucking pretentious and up their own ass and unlikable. And you're like, what is happening? But you're supposed to. Like, they're at this very pretentious school in this very pretentious and like odd MFA program, and you're not supposed to like them, which is why I loved this so much, because they were all, in my opinion, so distinct characters, despite the fact that all of these girls call themselves Bunny. I knew who was talking at almost every point in time when you were supposed to. I can't wait to reread this, because with that knowledge, it's gonna be a completely different book when you reread it, which I love that. So I don't think it's ambiguous in the sense of like, you're left with all of these questions and no answers, but you definitely are left with questions. I wish that I had not a direct comparison, because I don't think that there is anything that compares to this that I've read so far. But like, how cool is that? Like, I love that. Oh my God, 5 out of 5. Absolutely, if you couldn't already tell. I'm gonna stop ranting about this, or editing Lex is gonna be so pissed that I spent 15 minutes just on a little book review. If you have already read Bunny, please talk to me about it, okay? If you want to do spoilers, leave a huge like spoiler warning in the comments below. That way we don't spoil anything for anyone else, but I would love to talk to people about this book. So please, in the comments, talk to me about it if you have. I'm not even sort of exaggerating when I say that I have spent a good chunk of the day, at least 4 hours, getting nothing accomplished, reading nothing, and just like, I'll go off to my room, I'll come back to my bookshelves, look and see what I want to read next. I'll get decision fatigue, go back to my room, look on my Kindles, think, okay, there's less choices that are already on my Kindle, let's choose from those. Get decision fatigue. So I decided I should just do a like mini little try a chapter challenge into this video. And I'm gonna read the first chapter of these 4 books. All of my books and none of my books were calling to me all at the same time. So here I have Anatomy of Love Story, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, All My Rage, and We Deserve Monuments. I'm going to read over the first chapter of these, see which one is calling to me, and I'll report back. I'm gonna start with reading the first chapter of On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous. I have been sitting here for the last 15 minutes trying to come up with the words to describe the first chapter, and I feel like anything that I say just doesn't do it service. I know that this is going to be an incredible book because that first chapter was incredible. This is a book written from the perspective of a son who is writing to his mom who can't read. And he's detailing her life as an immigrant coming over from Vietnam, recognizing all of the trauma that she has been through, also the trauma that he's been through and the trauma that she has put him through, and kind of reconciling with that. This first chapter has a metaphor of monarch butterflies and their migrations. For like the quality of this first chapter, 5 out of 5. I just need to make sure that I'm in the right headspace when I'm reading this. Next, I'm gonna read the first chapter of We Deserve Monuments by Joss Hammonds. This cover is incredible. Okay, so we have more interesting mother-daughter dynamics going on, but this one is between Avery's mom and her grandma. So Avery's from DC and her grandma ends up getting sick, so her mom is like, we're moving back to Georgia. So Avery is now in small town Georgia, but it also feels like we've got a possible sapphic romance possibly forming, a little hint of one that so far it's just really cute. It was a little slow kind of getting into it, but that makes sense because you're just setting up the scene for like this YA contemporary slash maybe, I don't know if this is contemporary or romance, but by the end of the chapter, I was excited about it, and I was already excited about it because of this cover, and I forgot that this had some queer rep in it, so even better. Next, I'm gonna read All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir, and I'm gonna change my battery. Okay, the first chapter of this ended up only being a page long, so I read 2 chapters. I actually think this is in 3 different points of view. And the first perspective we get is Misba's perspective. I believe that this is like sometime in the past, and she's just found out that her family has arranged for her to be married to this man who she doesn't know. And that was the one that was only like a page, so that's really all that we get. Then we flash forward to today, and the other 2 perspectives I know about are Saul and Noor. And I read from Saul's perspective, and we have another interesting dynamic between child and parent. It seems like his dad is really struggling with alcoholism and his mom is struggling with her health, and he is struggling because he had this like best friend, Noor, and something happened, they had this fight, and now they're not talking anymore. Sabaa Tahir's fantasy series, An Ember in the Ashes, has been on my TBR list for a while, and I've heard nothing but amazing things about this. These first like couple of chapters are really good, and I love having dual timelines and multiple points of view. So I feel like that would even like move this story along faster. But so far, the writing is incredible. So we'll see how I feel about Anatomy of Love Story and then go from there. This might be a little bit unfair to this book because unknowingly I picked out 3 books that had very similar vibes and themes to them. And this is very much different. The other ones were like contemporary / literary fiction. This is like a, I guess, historical fiction, gothic romance kind of vibe. The first chapter is actually a prologue where we see these 2 boys in like the 1800s digging up a grave, and apparently this is like a thing that people do because scientists and people who want to study human anatomy will pay these resurrectionists to dig up human graves so that they can study the bodies. But then something possibly magical or just odd happens at the end of it, which is definitely intriguing to me. And I just want to know, is this fantasy or not? Because I thought it was fantasy. And then I thought I heard someone say that it was not. I don't know if gothic means that there might be fantasy. I'm still interested in this, but I just think after reading 3 chapters from 3 different books that had a different vibe, this is more of the mood that I'm in. So I really want to read On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, but I just don't know if I can emotionally handle this at this point in time. So tentatively, I'm gonna continue reading All My Rage, but I stop it here because I feel like this will be good for right now, having the multiple points of view and the dual timelines. But it also has some similar themes to this one about generational trauma and being like a first-generation immigrant or being a child of an immigrant family and trying to balance everything that's going on in your family. And I'm glad that I picked this up and I'm in the mood for it because this is on my list of the 23 books that I want to read this year. Now I am gonna go curl up and read in bed. I'm so excited. We're gonna go with it. I got a couple of books in the mail and I don't know what they are. So should we take a look together? Oh, okay, Lead Me Astray. I believe Jessie was the one who recommended this, maybe in one of their live shows or in one of their videos where they talk about books that they love but can't recommend. And then this was like another option for not reading that book. If you liked that vibe, read this instead. Maybe this was like the recommendation for if you liked Twilight, but don't quote me on that, let's see. I remember instantly when this was recommended, I was like, I need to pick that up, so apparently I did. Was it one of you in the comments? Or both? Because I think that this is a polyamorous fantasy or paranormal romance kind of thing. And I mentioned how I love those. So either it was one of you in the comments. If it was, I'm gonna look it up. I don't have time to look it up right now because my friend's about to be here with Ty. Oh, uh-oh. Okay, I'm very excited about this. It's the second book in the Broken Kingdoms trilogy, but it's a different version because I realized that I bought the first and the third book in the trilogy and not the second. But this is not the same. Do I have any of those here? I don't think so. I'm very excited about this. She makes like a full bound of all 3 books, but I saw it in person and it's so big that I was like, there's no way I'm gonna physically want to read that. Still really excited, might just end up with 2 copies of this and then I can donate this one. Or I could not be a pretentious fuck and just have not the same across the series, but we all know that's probably not gonna happen, right? N.K. Jemisin, love her so much. She's who wrote the 5th season trilogy. The 5th season is, oh, it's not called the 5th season trilogy. The first book I think is called the 5th season. I love her so much. So I literally just like one day went and bought like almost every book she's ever written. Apparently, except for the second book in this trilogy. But now I have it. If I end up loving the first book, I'll probably end up donating the second one and buying the one that matches the trilogy. But I'm so excited about both of these. I'm so excited about this one. Maybe this is gonna end up having to be on my mood reading plans soon. I can hear my friend's car. It's time for Typhoon. I'm on page 64, chapter 10 of All My Rage. Look at how cute this is. Sabati here has their initials on the hardcover. But we find out pretty quickly that the 3 perspectives that we're following from are from Sal or Salahuddin, Nur, his friend, and then the perspective of Misbah is his mom. So the perspective we're getting from like in the past is his mom whenever she was younger. And I love that. I love intergenerational stories where we get to see the perspective of different generations at like the same point in their life. and what they're going through and what led his mom to where she is at the beginning of this book. This is already a really hard book. We find out pretty quickly that his mom is really sick with kidney disease and his dad is really struggling with addiction right now. And Nur and him hadn't been talking because they had this fight, and everything kind of revolves around the beginning, like this fight, and like capital F fight that kind of broke everything because they've been best friends, Oliver, because they've been best friends since they were really, really little. And Nur was really close to his mom, and kind of toward the end there, she was talking about how she just wanted them to make up and move past whatever had happened, and they were really struggling with that. And that's about where we're at now. And I think that a lot of the responsibility now for his family's business, who they own and run this motel, and then Nur works for her uncle, who runs this like liquor / convenience store, I believe. I think a lot of the responsibility is going to end up falling on Salahuddin's shoulders and him having to deal with that. There have been times that have made me laugh. There have been times that have made me tear up, and we're only 64 pages in. I don't know why I'm holding this up as if this shows you literally anything. We're just gonna go ahead and put that down, but it's too late because I've already filmed this part. Also, if you have been following along with the blinds saga, which would be the fact that all of the blinds that I had installed in this house when I moved in, because I'm renting, they're really nice, except that whoever installed them couldn't find ones that fit directly inside of the windows to install on the inside. So instead of just buying and measuring for outside installation where they would cover the window, they just bought the closest ones to the measurements of the window that they could find, even if it was smaller than the window, and then installed them on the outside. So let me show you. If you can see, there's like this gap, and that's the smallest gap that there is. The rest of them have an even bigger gap between the blinds and the window. So anyone walking by could just see into my house. The blinds that were right here on this big window, all of them are like you push and pull up on them to get them to go up and down. They weren't installed correctly, so one day I went to go push up on them and it just broke off and fell and then broke half of the blinds. So then I was dealing with like this really ugly broken blind kind of look. And this is like the main window that you see as you're driving by or walking by or as I'm walking into the house. It's also like the window that's behind the two couches I sit on when I'm filming like most of these updates. And I was like, oh my God, that looks so awful. It's a huge window looking out to the street, and I didn't want everyone to be able to see into my house all the time, because one day I had someone walk up at like 3 a.m. while I was sitting here reading, asking to be let in. But I think the only reason was because they could literally see me sitting here from the street. So I needed a little bit more privacy, and now we officially have that, because now I have hung up, well, my mama helped me my mama helped me hang up curtains. They're linen, but they're blackout on the other side. They're not like a white on the other side, so they look good from the street. And now Oliver can sit and watch the birds and our groundhog friend and all of the cats that come by. So I'm just so happy. And then whenever I want to, I can close them, do some updates in front. I think you've already probably seen them in the background, but I'm really excited. I tested it out with curtains on this window and then one in my room, because all of the windows in this house line up directly with the windows to the guy who's right next door. So we can just like see into each other's houses. So I put up some of these blackout curtains in my room as well. And now I really like them. I think I'm gonna get another one for that window I just showed you with the other blinds, because soon I'm gonna have someone moved in on this side too. Makes me so happy. Just a little thing that made such a big difference in how this room looks and feels. And since it's the room that I spend the majority of my time in, that was important. I mean, come on, if that does not say happy kitty. Just know, whatever words that I use to describe this, it's never going to do it justice, but I'm gonna try my best. I'll be honest, I was a little bit nervous because kind of toward the middle part of this, it slowed down a little bit for me and I wasn't really sure where we were going with it. It was harder for me to pick back up, but I'm so glad that I did, because around the halfway point, a little bit after halfway, this is so intelligent and heartbreaking, but also gives you so much hope. We explore the themes of grief and forgiveness and betrayal and rage and generational trauma and just trauma that happens in our lives. And the way that Sabatier is able to do this in this YA contemporary story is brilliant. This is definitely a character-focused story, which we all know is my favorite. And the perspectives that we got, those 3 point of views, perfect, perfect. This was so well done. I feel like everyone needs to read this. If there is a book that you've watched me read that you should pick up, it's this one. Absolutely 5 stars. It doesn't even matter that that middle part slowed down because there was a purpose to that. Like there's so much more going on than you think is going on. And as we start to unravel that and start to really peel back the layers of who these characters are and what they've been through and the connections between them, it was just beautiful. I cried, I laughed. You will root for these characters and feel sad for the decisions that they make and happy for the decisions they make. You want the best for them, and you truly feel like you are watching as their lives are unraveling. Brilliantly well done. All My Rage, Saboteur, 5 stars. This might be one of the highest rated books on my Goodreads that I've read. 4.56. In the graph of 5 stars to everything else is just like unheard of. I've never ever seen something like that. Also, you'll see that I popped in here. My hair is shorter. I got a haircut forgetting that I hadn't finished filming for a couple of these books. So if you see me popping in and out looking a little bit different, that's why. This vlog so far has been such a win. I am so excited. And this is why I am a mood reader through and through. This whole vlog, in the back of my mind, I have been like, I am in such a Twilight mood. Like, I really want to reread Twilight. But if I'm going to reread Twilight, I want to reread the whole series. And I'm not that committed to that decision at this point in time. So then, when I got this in the mail, I was like, let me pick this up and see. So I've read 40 pages of it. The only reason that I put it down last night is because I literally couldn't keep my eyes open. I was so intrigued just because I think that like this is the perfect read for me right now. This kind of writing style is not always going to work for me. There's definitely going to be some insta love in here. The attraction that like all of these characters are feeling for each other, given the literally life and death situation that some of them are in, doesn't make any logical sense, but it's just so much fun. In this, we are following our 3 main characters and we're getting their 3 points of view. And you know, I love a good multi-point of view story, but do I know their names? Okay, so we have Ori. It's probably Ari. I'm gonna go with Ari. Ari is our main character, and very quickly within the first chapter of the story, we find out that Ari dies and turns into a ghost. And then she goes into Overlay City, which is like in New Orleans, but it's like if you're supernatural or a supernatural creature, you can see the other supernatural creatures that are there. And they have like their own government and form of regulation, not government, but like laws and ways of living, while they're also simultaneously living amongst the humans. Then we have Mies, and they witness Ari dying, and Ari's like, hey, what is happening to me right now? And Mies is like, I don't want to deal with this, okay? I've got too much to do. And Ari's like, no, I need you to help me out. Okay, why am I a ghost? Why am I seeing all of these things? Why can I not touch anything? And Mies is like, oh my god, fine, come with me. And Mies is described as an empath. That's like their supernatural power, but we're getting hints to the fact that there's more to it, or there's things about their powers or their past or who they are that we don't fully know yet. And then our third love interest is Zier. And he is a werewolf, but he also works for the police in New Orleans. So he kind of helps to bridge the gap between Overlay City and their laws and regulations in New Orleans. And he tends to kind of use his supernatural people and connections to help solve like the cases that he's working in the police force in New Orleans, because the humans don't know about the supernatural people. So he gets onto the scene and very quickly realizes that there's something not right about it. Like it wasn't just an accidental hit and run. Someone wanted Ari dead. So they all now have to work together to solve who did it and to help Ari, who is now a ghost and is supposed to be following the light. But they're all pining over each other. It is very angsty. Would, in this kind of situation, most people be pining over each other the way they are? No. But that's what makes me feel like I totally understand why this was recommended as a, if you loved Twilight, read this instead kind of thing. Plus, we have so much representation. So much queer representation, so much BIPOC representation, and it's adult, and it's polyamorous. So you already know that I am on board. I'm so excited to continue reading this. My ADHD is thriving with reading, watching a movie, and being on live. There are people crawling on my roof. I have no idea what's going on. They're cutting down trees over my house. What is happening? The people who own this property just neglected to tell me that they would be cutting down whole trees on top of my house. I worried because the people next door who are building a house do shady shit. So I thought maybe he was with them, but no. I'm so sad. I hope they don't cut all of them down. I love those trees so much. But like, my landlord should have said something. He said that he came knocking the other day, but like, why did they not just go give me a call? Give me a heads up. Good thing I didn't feel like filming today. Renting this house has just been a chaotic mess from literally day one. Hi friends. So I've been putting off this update because I'm so sad about it. So I finished Lead Me Astray. I'm gonna be perfectly honest with you. I skimmed the last like 100 pages. I was loving the first half of this for it's kind of like campy, over the top, fanfic kind of feel. And I think that had it been shorter, and had it almost just been like a novella or like a very short novel that had this kind of feel, I would have loved it because I was on board for like 200 pages of this. But after the 200 page mark, I just felt a little empty about it. Like, and it makes me so sad because I love this. Like, and I think it's so important that the fact that, let's be honest here, in this realm of like fanfic, fantasy romance, but like kind of campy insta love kind of romance, cis straight white females have been dominating that space for a really long time, and they've been allowed to do these tropes and people eat that shit up. So I think that it's important that we get representation and voices that are not that. The rep in here is incredible. The polyamory, we have gender queer characters, we have pansexual and bisexual characters, and we have tons of BIPOC main characters and side characters. I love that the story exists, and I don't want my feelings about it to like dissuade anyone from reading it, but I would be lying if I said that I didn't struggle with the last half of this. I just felt like I didn't feel the connection that I wanted to feel between the characters. I wasn't really jiving with like where we were taking the plot of this story, but that's okay because a lot of times I'm fine without a solid plot if I really love the characters. But I didn't feel like the time that we spent with them, we got to see quality interactions. We just had to kind of assume that believe them when they were telling us that they had these feelings for these characters, but I didn't feel like we were shown that. There was time that we like completely skipped over where they would have been, I kind of think in like that pining stage and that building up a love and relationship that we didn't get to see. So I think my overall enjoyment of this was like a 2-star, but the representation was just so amazing that I feel like I might bump it up to a 3. And I know that people have different opinions about that, of like whether good or bad representation should affect your rating, but like this is my rating, and I think it would be disingenuous to say that like good representation doesn't increase like my enjoyment and overall feelings of the book, just as like terrible representation would bring down my feelings of a book even if I really enjoyed it. So you can feel about that what you will. That I thought about DNFing it, especially since this is like a mood reading vlog. But with that being said, I feel like this week of mood reading was a success. We had 2 5-stars, like 2 blow it out of the water 5 stars. I'm very happy with that. Why am I already forgetting what the second book was that I read? All My Rage. Duh. Oh my god. Bunny was a 5-star, might end up being an all-time favorite. All My Rage, 5-star, might end up being a favorite of the year. If not, I at least am definitely looking forward to reading Sabatier's fantasy series. And then Lead Me Astray, I'm very glad that it exists. It just wasn't the writing for me. Didn't work for me there in the end, but that's okay. I really enjoyed this. Oh, I just love mood reading so much. This was a blast. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a little bunny emoji down in the comments if you made it all the way to the end of this video, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!